Okay. Good morning, everybody. Or good morning, good afternoon, good day. How are you? How's it going? So, I want to welcome you guys into the channel. I was just sitting here at the table, just got off the phone with a client. They're relocating here from Texas, or they're relocating here to Texas. They're coming from up north, and I was just telling them about the pros and cons of Texas and what to expect and what to know. And you know what? I said, you know what? Let me just pop the phone out, do a quick video, and just do my top 5 things that you may want to know before you decide to come down here to Texas. Or if you're thinking about making the move, maybe this information is helpful for you. I don't know. I hope so. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you like what you see. Just let me know. But I always like to educate people as much as possible, especially like I know firsthand because I'm a realtor and I do work with a lot of clients that relocate here. I myself have relocated here from up north. So these are things that I didn't know until I moved down here to Texas. So number 1. The first thing that I feel like you should know before you decide to come down here is Texas is big. Okay, when they say everything is bigger in Texas, believe it. Houston, this is my area, this is where I'm at. Houston is like large on a whole nother level, an entirely different scale. I don't think you can really understand how big Texas is. And that's one of the main things that I run into when I'm working with a client that's trying to relocate here. Say, okay, so where you want to come, Mr. or Mr. Buyer? I want to come to Houston. Okay, great. Well, what part? I say, well, what do you mean? Well, okay, so the best way I can describe it is you can be in Texas. You can be in Houston. Let's just say Houston. You can be in Houston riding for an hour in your vehicle and still be in Houston. So, yes, Texas is large. There's north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest. So the main thing that you really want to consider is drive time. Meaning, for example, I can be on an appointment. I can pull up my GPS and it'll tell me 10 miles. No problem. 10 miles, 37, 38 minutes. That's something you're just going to have to get used to and get adjusted to. Because yes, Texas is big. Bigger on a whole nother scale. Okay, it's large, it's huge. So just factor in your drive time, where you're going to work at, where the schools you want to be at, what amenities you want to look for. Those things you want to know about Texas before you actually decide to make this move. Because the last thing you want to do is live in Sugar Land and have to commute every day to the Woodlands. Sugar Land is the south side. The Woodlands is the exact north, or Conroe, which are all of the areas surrounding Houston, okay? So, which kind to piggybacks to my next point, number 2, consider your drive time. Because, like I said, it's large, it's huge. And then once you factor in traffic, it gets worse. Or it gets better, it depends. But one thing about Texas, I love it. Everything has like their own little world. So you can drive 2 to 3 miles. You'll have grocery stores, your shopping, your restaurants, whatever you want to do. It pretty much everything has their own world. So you really don't have to go outside of your zone unless you want to. So that's another thing that you want to factor in is, how long it's going to take you to get to work, or what schools you want the kids to be by, or what is your preference? Do you want to be inside the city really, or do you want to be in the suburbs or something? Do you want nice amenities, or do you want the convenience of city living? So that's, I would say, my number 2 thing, okay? Number 3, weather. The best way I can describe here is You can't. I love it, but Texas, the weather is crazy, okay? We do experience rain, thunderstorms. You do have to deal with hurricanes and flooding. Texas is below sea level, so yes, it does flood down here. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it on the news by now, but certain areas, depending on where you're going, it will flood. So you want to factor in, are you going to be in a flood zone? A lot of people don't want to be in a flood zone, or, that is very important. Got a little tongue-tied there, but yeah, weather, flooding, rain, and all of that. All of Houston doesn't flood. I've been here 5 years now, okay? So I've experienced several flooding events. I've been fortunate where I've been at. I live in Cypress, and I was in the northwest side of Houston for a little bit, Copperfield area. That area didn't flood. I never dealt with flooding. I never had to deal with it during Harvey, the tax day flood, and just all of these other rain events. Now, it doesn't flood every time, but street flooding does happen. They have bayous. It's below sea level. That's just how they channel the water here. So if we have a fast-moving storm or a slow-moving storm and it dumps a lot of water, then yes, it's going to take a little while for all of this water to fully drain out through all of the creeks and the bayous and all of that other stuff here. So you just want to factor that in too, okay, flooding. And on the flip side, Texas does have two weathers, which is, it's flooding and then it's hot. Yeah, hot. Summertime, you really want to factor that in. A lot of fellow or native Houstonians will tell you that you cannot get used to this heat. You just learn to deal with it. And I can have to kind of agree with them on that. I can't get used to it. You just learn to deal with it. My first year here was absolutely brutal. It gets hot here on a completely different level, okay? It's hot, okay? It can be brutal on your vehicles, so you always want to factor that in, especially if you have leather seats, black cars or something. Keep them clean, keep some wax on your car to save your paint. Trust me, I've made the mistake and I've paid the price. Or paying the price and walking around with, you kind of get it. So does factor that in. Heat, okay? It's kind of two weathers in Texas. It's kind of raining or it's hot. Now this last year we did have that cold snap, which was something that I'm a little embarrassed to say because, I am from up north. We are used to the cold weather. So I was definitely disappointed with how that happened. But that's a whole nother story. Hopefully that doesn't happen a lot. And if it does, you just have to know to be prepared for that. Can't know if you can be prepared to lose power for as long as we did. But I'm going to leave that alone. That's a whole nother thing. Okay. Number 4. No state tax. Or no, let me rephrase that. So if you're working, you have a job. Most normal people, you pay federal and state taxes. You don't have to pay that here in Texas. Yeah, it's great. Excuse me. You don't have to worry about that. The cost of living here is a lot more inexpensive than certain parts of the world, especially if you're coming from the north or west coast or whatnot. So me coming from up north to here, it was great. It was amazing. This was before this whole housing boom that we're in right now, which is a seller's market, but that's a whole nother story. There are ways and tricks to get around that. I do have another video that you can check in about that, but that's not what this is about right here and right now. These are my top 5 things that you may want to consider before you move here. And yeah, so no state tax. You do see a whole lot more on your paychecks because you don't have to pay the state tax. So factor that in as well. Come on down. I love it. It's great. Yeah, I should be like a Texas spokesman. Oh, Houston Texan or Texas spokesperson. I'm your guy, okay? You know, anything you want to know about Texas? No, I'm not a native, but I love it here, okay? And that leads me to my fifth and final thing that you need to know about Texas before you come to Texas. Everyone in Texas loves Texas. I've never been to a place where a person is never more proud to be a Texan. And it's great, okay? It's a level of freedom here that you don't understand. Okay, so total disclaimer, I am from DC, so it's a lot of stipulations, it's a lot of restrictions. So when I came down here, I loved it. I fell in love with the freedom, the just freedom. It's open, it's, you know, it's great. But, you know, the cost of living, it's a lot more inexpensive than what I'm used to. Your money go a lot further. Houses have gone up, but that's just how things work. You know, things do go up. But if I had a choice to do it all again, I would. This is like an unprecedented amount of freedom here. You know, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't have to worry about anything. You know, you know, that's all I can say. You know, yeah. So thank you for watching this video. You know, I just said, let me just give y'all quick 5 things that I think of that you may want to know before you come down here. And yes, so number 1, Houston is big. Texas is big. Everything is bigger in Texas, okay? 2, consider your drive time, where you want to work at, where you want to live at, how far or how long do you mind or don't mind sitting in the car, okay? Because that is very important here. Number 3, weather, factor that in. You know, you want to know about your flood zones, lack thereof, or just get with a knowledgeable agent. They'll explain the difference to you. Number 5, when you're working, you don't have to get paid a state tax, or for self-employed people, you don't have to pay a state tax. But that's a whole nother thing. That's just from a financial thing. That's a bonus. I'm sure a lot of people really didn't know that. I didn't know that until I came down here. But I came down here. And number 5 is just the freedom. You are free here. You're free to come and go, to do as you want, do as you please. I love Texas. Texas love Texas. This is me. This is your guy, Dkeyrealty, your realtor. Feel free to give me a call, email. I do consultations, but that's a whole nother story. 346-383-0871. Thank you and have a great day. Signing out.